everyone. Thank you for joining the class. This course is supposed to be about helping you learn the missing piece, the missing link to passing the exam. I'm a PMP certified project manager, and I have been through this process, through the preparation and through the struggles of preparing for the PMP exam. Now, I want to begin this class with my own story. So, to help you understand where I'm coming from and how it led me to creating this course so that it can help out all of you who are planning to go or, who are writing the PMP exam for the second time or maybe the third time. So when I was preparing for my own PMP certification, started off, I read the PMP guide. I read a bunch of other books as well. So, I read Andy Crow's book. I read the Rita's book. And I did all that I could, what everybody was telling me, the way I was supposed to learn for the PMP exam, how I was supposed to get ready, go through the stuff, understand them, practice tons and tons of questions. And I did that. Now, what happened was right about 2 weeks before my exam date, I actually met this very nice person who became a mentor to me in the process and helped me prepare for that PMP exam in those last few days. And what I learned from him was a game changer. It was the most important thing that I was not able to find in the PMP guide or any of the other books I read. So my mentor, he is an experienced consultant himself. He works in the cybersecurity space. Now, when I started working with him and, we were like talking every day for at least an hour, and he was helping me go through the entire coursework basically and, testing my knowledge and my understanding. So he shared a lesson, a story with me at the time. He talked to me about his own struggle with the PMP exam. So he told me that when he he decided to go for the PMP exam, he basically put in the application. That's how it starts, right? You first put it in an application, PMI, they accept that application, and then you get about 3 chances to try that exam within 1 year's time frame. So my mentor, he, being an experienced consultant and all that, he was like, what could it be there for me to learn from the book? So the first time when he went for the exam, when he wrote the exam, he did not even look at the PMP guide. He just went and he did the exam. And like expected, he failed. So that's when, he was like, okay, maybe it's going to take a bit more. Let me go through this book and see what's it all about. So he started reading the PMP guide, going through the tools and techniques, the inputs, outputs, the processes, all of that stuff. And then he scheduled his exam for the second time. Went and did the exam. And guess what? He did worse than the first time. Now, right about that time, his 1 year time frame actually almost came to an end. So right about that time, he got really serious. He was like, how is it that, I, being such an experienced consultant, having managed so many complex projects, difficult teams and all, I even went through the book and I studied everything. How is it that I'm not passing this exam? Why am I failing at this exam? And he started questioning himself. He started asking himself, and that's when he figured it out. After a lot of brainstormings, self-questioning and whatnot, he told me, Hajra, if you want to pass this exam, then you need to understand what is the relationship between the processes. I remember him telling this all the time. It's all about the processes. It's all about the processes. That's the key to passing this exam. And this is what I try to teach all my students. This is how I begin all of my classes, all of my life classes, all of my one-on-one coaching classes. this is what I share with my student the first day, because in my opinion, this is the most valuable lesson they can get from me. The key to passing this exam is all about the processes, understanding the interconnection between the processes. With his help, with this advice, I was able to pass my exam on my first attempt. My mentor did it on his third try. I was able to pass my exam on my first attempt. Now, when I started working with him, I realized that despite all of those days of hard work and study, all those months of time that I had put into it, when he started questioning me about the connection, about relationships between the processes, how they are done, when are we doing certain processes in a sequence, when are they done iteratively, how are they connected, how is the output of a process valid as an input to another process, how is that happening, why is that happening? When he started asking me those questions, I didn't know the answer. I realized I didn't know the answer. And so for those 2 weeks before my exam, that is just what I did. I started focusing on connecting these processes. Now, I tell you this, I see this as a gap in a lot of books out there. I see this as a problem even till today. The PMBOK guide, if you look at it, it has about 49 processes in it. There is another really popular book out there called PMP Exam Prep. That book has about 85 processes in it. Now, the PMBOK guide sort of explains things in a way where they are expecting you, the experienced project manager, because experience is a prerequisite to the PMP certification. They sort of expect you to know many of these things automatically. And the reality is that we don't, because, it's pretty rare that we do things in such a structured and formal way as the PMBOK guide suggests. So they haven't really explained what's happening in between those different processes in the book. They have a list of different processes, how they are done over the 5 process groups, 49 processes overall, but they are not explaining what's happening between those processes, because there is a lot that goes on between those processes, and those are the scenario questions. Now, if I compare that to the PMP Exam Prep book's chart, so the chart in the PMP Exam Prep book, it has about 85 processes. Now, what the author has done here in her book is basically she took those processes from the PMBOK guide and she broke them down into more processes, sort of explaining the in-between, right? What's happening in between those processes. So what you will see, if you take up PMP Exam Prep by Rita Malkai and you look over the chart, you'll see that she has divided the processes over the 5 process groups, and it's basically explaining to us, in more detail about what's going on between all of those PMBOK processes. What is that stuff we are doing in between 2 processes? However, none of the books out there have been able to explain in detail and in simple language and in simple manner, how are these processes connected? Sure, Rita has done a great job by, simplifying and defining further what's happening in between these processes from the PMBOK guide, but nobody has explained about how these processes are connected together. How all of them are connected together. When are we doing processes in a sequence? When are we doing them in iterations? When are processes done simultaneously? Because in projects, we do have a lot of stuff that we do at the same time, side by side. Projects have a lot of moving parts. That's why projects are so complex. No one has done that. And so I designed this course and I came up with my own mapping chart. I created a whole new chart for project management in order to be able to teach my students how the processes are actually divided and how they are connected. I like to call it the real project chart. So my project chart, you'll see, has about 108 processes in them, because I really took it up a notch and I divided these processes into the most tiniest parts to help you understand what exactly are we doing between these processes, all right, and how we are, moving from one process to the other one, because these are all scenario questions for you. Now, what I did in my exam is, as soon as you go into the exam room, they give you some time to kind of settle down. And PMI gives you, they provide the pen, papers, and all that stuff you may need. So as soon as I went into the exam room, the first thing I did as a brain dump was drawing this chart for myself. I drew it right there in front of me, and it helped me tremendously in answering those scenario questions, because the scenario questions that I had for my paper were really testing my knowledge. PMI was asking me about things I should have done in the back end, or in the past, to have avoided situations, to have avoided scenarios. So these questions that I was seeing in my exam were not forward looking, but they were backward looking. Imagine thinking about your processes in the reverse direction. That is hard. So my mapping chart helped me clear that hurdle and helped me pass that exam. My mentor set me in the right direction, and he shared the most valuable and critical lesson I could have ever learned. That helped me shift my direction, my study course, and my chart helped me pass that exam. And so I will use the same chart and help you understand the processes and how they are connected, and help you understand the most critical lesson you need to know about in order to answer those scenario questions, those challenging questions, and pass that PMP exam in your first try.